right, it looks like we have a good group here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We are very excited for this class today, hosted by Brian Brobst and Alison Benoit. This class is all going to be about what to do after you get your first listing. So I'm going to let Alison and Brian take it away. If you guys can turn on your cameras, sometimes just staring at names and boxes is a little bit hard to do, but if you're available, please turn your camera on. We'd love to see you. And also, if you guys have any questions throughout the class, feel free to leave them in the chat or unmute and ask. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to start up this training. So this came from an idea that we were helping new agents answer some questions through an incentive through Keller Cares. So we're going to talk about today what you need to get through your first listing. A lot of the trainings that we have talk about how to get clients so that you can go on your first listing appointment and how to get your first listing appointment. So of course you crushed that. So now you've got your first listing, and what do you do? How do you handle the paperwork? So we're going to take you through walking out of the client's house with your listing agreement signed all the way through offers and appraisals. So the first thing that I always like to do is anything that I have given my sellers, I keep a copy of. Where you keep it is completely up to you. A copy of, I always bring to my listing appointments the property summary from the auditor's website. Cuyahoga County is a little bit easier to get to it, but it's really important that you have that for later on. It will help you throughout. So you're going to give your clients a copy of that. That is what every agent who is going to look up the house. It's also going to help you to make sure that what you put on the MLS, because sometimes it self-populates, make sure what you put on the MLS is what's on the auditor's website. So you have that piece of paper during the input process. Something else I always keep is the CMA that I used for my listing appointment. When I save a CMA, I save it as a PDF and I put the date that I ran it just because it's easier that way. If I've run more than one, then I keep them both. And then I put both of those documents in PDF form in a file in .loop. So you have your section in .loop that is all the listing documents. I make a separate folder that is just information that I gave to the seller. So I have it all there in .loop at my fingertips when I need it and I'm ready to move forward, or if anybody calls me with any questions. Something else that I like to do is give the seller a written process again. I know we talk about it 1,000 times, and you're always surprised when a buyer or a seller says, "Oh, you never told me I need an appraisal." Well, you probably said it 36 times, but during the process, remember, you're selling something super emotional, so nobody remembers anything. And if somebody gives you a list of 36 things, you can't remember all 36 things. So I like to have the process in writing. I like to have how to get your house ready for photographs. I like to have how to get your house ready for a showing. And then I like to have the process, you hire a realtor, you agree upon a price, you have showings, you get offers, you have an inspection, what to expect for the inspection, and then the next process is appraisal. I like to have that all written down. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be fancy. If you don't have that, Google it. It's all written out there. I don't think the command listing presentation has all of this information. So work together, piece it together. I can show you what I use that I got from somebody else. So give them a list of what's going to happen in writing so they can refer to it, because again, people just don't remember anything, and you're repeating yourself all the time. The next thing is staging of the house. You can hire a stager if you want. Just depends upon the price of the house and whether the seller is willing to do that. If not, you can kind of go through and give them a few things. I hear a lot of agents talk about neutralizing a house. I just kind of don't like that word. I declutter. Pack it, you're moving is my mantra in life. I'm thinking about getting a face tattoo that says it, or maybe just like a neck. Pack it, you're moving. So you've got a great house, and Granny's got pictures of her high school graduation all the way down to the new baby that is born. These are amazing pictures. They need to go. Neutralize it. Yuck. No, I love all these pictures. It'd just be easier. Go get yourself some bubble wrap, put them in a box, label it, put the box somewhere, pack it, you're moving. Let's just declutter the house. It just seems to be an easier way to say it. Professional photographer is an absolute must. You must take a photography. You have to have one. You can spend $650 and get, one of those fancy, here I am opening the door, here's a drone, here's a video, or there's plenty of photographers that you can hire for $120 that do an absolutely amazing job. So it's not a lot of money. It seems like a lot of money when it's your first listing and you're, wondering if your car's going to get towed because you're behind on the payment. Been there, did that for a really long time. I understand the financial stress, but this is just, think of it like MLS dues. You have to have professional photography. Okay, so now you've got the house ready, the photographers come out, you've got the pictures. Now it's time to put it into the MLS. Here's a disclaimer, I don't know how to do that. I've got a transaction manager that I've had for 9 years who is just absolutely fabulous, and she does that for me. I do not know how to do it. There is a really good video on the MLS, which, by the way, the MLS .loop and Showing Time have the best help ever. You can send them an email, you can call them up as long as it's during working hours. They are absolutely fantastic. So if you get stuck on anything, ask a friend in the office or call the MLS. So a couple of things I do know about the MLS, even though I don't know how to input anything, is the rule. You must go live within 48 hours of the start date on your exclusive right to sell. So you're meeting with somebody and they need 2 weeks to declutter, and your photographer is going to take 2 days to get out there, and then you need 24 hours to get the pictures. So nothing is instantaneous. What I do, and I don't know if it's allowed, so if it's not, this is just my personal disclaimer. I leave the start and the finish date blank and explain to them the rule. And then when we are ready to go, then because I like to get ink signatures. Don't walk out of that listing appointment without ink signatures on your paperwork. Leave those two blank, fill it in when you know you can do it within 48 hours, send it over to them in .loop, have them initial both the beginning and the end date, and then boom, you're compliant, you're ready to go. And you didn't lose them because somebody else snuck in and was mean to you. Another thing I'd like to talk about is room measurements. So there's 2 thoughts on room measurements in the MLS. I am old school. I like room measurements on the MLS, and I'll tell you why. And then I'll tell you another opinion from another agent that does a huge amount of business. I like room measurements. I am currently working with a couple that has the biggest furniture known to man. They have a custom-made 9-foot couch and a 7-foot couch that need to go in the same room. They also have the biggest bedroom furniture. They showed me a picture. It looks like something from the Flintstones. It is ridiculously large. It's custom made. People should not buy a house that fits their furniture, but dang it, that's what these people are doing. So I need the room measurements. They get really aggravated when we walk into a house where the photographer has used a wide angle lens on a room and their furniture does not fit because the room is 11 by 15 and it looked like it was 30 by 40. So that's why I like room measurements. And little side note here, let's talk about pictures here for a minute. Don't disappoint. Do not be a bad Tinder date. Okay. Your pictures, the purpose of photography on the MLS is to get people interested in your home so they schedule an appointment. When they get there, though, they don't want to be horrified. So your pictures need to be great. They need to be professional, but they need to be a representation of what the home really looks like. You know, if there's scratched paint and little things like that, that's okay. But don't, you know, if you've gained 55 pounds, don't put that picture of you when you weighed 110 on your dating app site, a current one. But I digress. So back to room sizes. The other theory that I have heard about room sizes is I had another listing agent when we were talking about room sizes tell me that they didn't like to put room sizes, not because they were lazy, but what if they had a really great house with really good curb appeal and just everything about the house was just spot on, easy to fall in love with, but the rooms were a little bit on the small side. They didn't want people not coming to the house because the rooms were small. So that's two sides of that coin. Obviously, I'm a fan of the room sizes. Once you've got everything inputted, ask somebody to proofread this listing for you. If the sellers are cool and you know, hey, could you just take a quick look at this and make sure I didn't forget anything? Some sellers love to do that. Some sellers ask me, can we see it before you go live? Description and all, and then they make a bunch of edits. Other sellers no. Some sellers, you know, are just not the type that you could be like, hey, you want to give me a hand? Have somebody proofread it. You don't want typos, but also I think it was my second listing, I bought somebody a garbage disposal that I didn't know, and I was not in a position to buy a garbage disposal for anybody, let alone a stranger at that point in my career, but I checked the box. And the buyer's agent knew there wasn't a garbage disposal at the inspection, but nobody said anything. And when they did the walkthrough, I had to give them money for a garbage disposal. So make sure that what you're checking stays. What isn't there isn't checked. And the best way to do that, especially in the beginning, is have somebody proofread. I never go live without having somebody proofread. I don't like to do anything without having somebody proofread, but really these listings are important. So another thing that I think is important, because this I also learned the hard way, the square footage was incorrect. So we had copied over from the two previous listings. I asked the sellers, when you bought the house, did it appraise at this square footage? They said yes. I didn't check the auditor's website because the auditor's website was different. I didn't put a disclaimer in it. And when the buyer's appraisal came back, it came back with a different square footage and it was significant, and that cost me money as well. So what I always put is square footage is per the, and then my source. If it's Realist or the auditor's website, that's great. If the owner added on a room in the back, they took a screened-in porch and added HVAC and lighting, and now it's an additional 400 feet, but it didn't make its way to the auditor's website, then your square footage is per the owner. Or if it's new construction, it's the builder. So square footage is per the whatever and cannot be guaranteed for accuracy. This isn't going to absolve you from any problem that you could possibly get in by making an honest mistake. But I think that's important to have as a disclaimer on every listing, whether you need it or not. You'll also see this a lot in, like, South Euclid's a good example, where there's a bunch of bungalows where somebody has changed and made the attic into a bedroom, and it's got that weird, and you have to measure 5 feet, and there's all that weird square footage business, and this should cover you. Square footage is per realist, the owner, and cannot be guaranteed for accuracy. I put it in all my listings, so if you didn't get that, go to my one miserable listing that isn't selling. By the way, if anybody needs a condo in University Circle, please come buy this one. It's just horrifying to me. Okay, now we're moving on to showing time. Again, showing time is super, super helpful. I don't know a lot about how to do it because Erica does it for me, but on the off chance that I have had to have this done on the weekend, I call them and they are always more than gracious and very helpful. So the first thing about showings on the house is a discussion with your sellers. What is there, if they're living in the house? So if they're not living in the house, then go and show is what you absolutely want to do. And a go and show means that as soon as somebody puts in a request, they get the lockbox code immediately. They can be driving down the street and hop into the house. So go and show is exactly what it says it is. You request a showing, boom, you go at your time, which you all know because you guys run buyers as well. Make sure that you are always notified of every single showing. So in your showing instructions, wherever those go, put that you are to be notified as well. I find it best to be notified via text message. I don't always answer the phone. If I'm on the road all day, I'm not good about checking my email. It's hard to do from the car, but when you're at a red light and you get a text, because you do not text and drive, you check your text message and you see that you have a showing so you can let the sellers know. If the sellers are living in the home, talk to them about their lifestyles. Is their house always incredibly clean and they only need an hour's notice? Showings, I like to tell my sellers that are living in the houses, showings, if the house doesn't sell right away, showings they're invasive. It's just super inconvenient with busy lives. So if for the first couple of days, you're getting up and you're making the beds real nice and you're, taking your dirty laundry with you and, you're wiping off the counters and putting the breakfast dishes in the dishwasher, after day 5, you're running late for work. I'd like to think that we all make our beds and put the dishes away, but we don't. So talk to them. What kind of notice do you need? Try to explain to them it needs to be as easy as possible, but it also needs to be realistic, because what you don't want to happen is the sellers to get frustrated. And even more than that, you do not want the house not to be model home perfect. So talk to them. Do they need a couple of hours? You used to be able to do overnight, but I don't think you can anymore. So if they are going to have a day where they get, say they get up at 8 o'clock and they're out of the house by 9 and everybody's running late and you have a 4-hour notice, well, somebody could request a showing at 4 o'clock before they get home from work. So you're better off having a longer notice time than having your sellers say no to showings. No to showings, you know, if you guys run buyers, no to showings just makes everybody super, super aggravated. So talk to them realistically about how much notice they need to get out of the house, and then reiterate the type of condition that the house needs to be in for them to show the house. And I'm guessing with this new compensation thing that every buyer's agent is going to be talking to you about that, but Brian's going to talk about that because he's super excited about that. Okay, there's a couple of strategies for going live. The first is you've got excellent, the house is ready, it's perfect, your photos are amazing, you've got a Pulitzer Pulitzer prize winning description, you've had somebody proofread it, so you're not giving away any appliances. What's your strategy? The first strategy is go live when you're ready. As soon as you're ready, just boom, you're on the MLS, let's rock and roll. The second is go live on a Thursday or Friday. Give it time for the consumer sites, Zillow and realtor.com, because despite the fact we want them to use us, buyers just don't. They're on Realtor, they're on whatever. I've given up the fight. If you want it to be, so people have listings sent to them either immediately 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. So if you're going to do this Thursday, Friday, make sure you do it before 5 p.m. What I see a lot of agents doing, and I'm not saying that you should do this, I can say that I have done it, and I know a lot of people that do it. And I did call the MLS and ask them about this, and their answer was, you know, kind of leave it up to interpretation. Some people go live Friday, late afternoon, and then the sellers just aren't ready to show the house on Friday, and they're just not quite ready. The house isn't perfect until Saturday at 11 a.m. when your open house is. So you can create some excitement, get a lot of people at your open house. That, you know, it helps. Nobody likes to go to a restaurant with no cars in front of it. If you have a bunch of showings Friday night and first thing Saturday morning, maybe that many people won't come to your open house. A lot of excitement around an open house is always a really good idea, and the marketing strategies for that would be a different class than this, but you can call me and I can tell you about that. When I called the MLS to ask them about blocking off showings for this particular strategy, they sent me an email right away because, as I mentioned, they're amazing. If a property is active, it needs to be available for showings. If it is not available, then it needs to be in temporarily off-market status. If there are certain time slots throughout the day when a property is unavailable, those time slots can be marked accordingly in showing times. That was from Wendy. You know, I don't know how you interpret that, but I can say I see other agents do it all the time. Not a bad strategy. You don't want to block showings for 2 days, though. You don't want to do this on Thursday until Saturday. You don't want to do it from Friday to Monday. Don't tempt fate. Don't do it for more than 12 hours. If you're going to do it at all, I'm not recommending it. Disclaimer. Okay, another thing that I've been thinking a lot of, because when I have buyers, I look for houses for them every single day. And how I do that is I go on, so my Hudson buyers with the big furniture. Every morning when I get up, I take my Ricky Ray Coonhound for a walk, then I come back, I sit down in front of my computer, I search Hudson, all active, contingent, pending, because there are some houses that are going right from active to pending, shame on them. I have those 3 come up, and they, you know, they sort however they sort, and then you click on days on market, and 0, 1, 2, 3 come up. So I have noticed during my time working with these Hudson big furniture buyers, almost nobody lists anything on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So that might be a way to stand out in the crowd. And if you're going to do that, maybe then you want to do a broker's tour on Tuesday. Great way to get to know agents. You know, a lot of what you're doing is to sell your current listing, but it's also to get other listings. So strategies that get a lot of people in the house and sell a house quickly are going to be noticed by neighbors and the people that follow you on Facebook and Instagram, because you are promoting this on that. Okay, so that is your 3 strategies. List when ready, list Thursday, Friday, list Monday, Tuesday for less competition. Marketing in the house. I leave the MLS listing, make sure it's your name on it, which it would be if you pull it up. I don't like to do the agent copy because I don't like the broker notes and stuff to show. So I do the buyers on my own listing. So my name is on it, but it doesn't have like days on market and all that other stuff on it. The residential property disclosure, lead-based paint disclosure, if it's an older house. If you've done a pre-listing inspection, I would leave that in the house. I would not put it as a supplement on the MLS, but I would mention that it is available to agents after they've seen the house. Because you just don't want nosy people. If it's an HOA and you have the HOA documents, sometimes that's big, it's expensive to print. You might want to put the HOA addendum if applicable. If you got the age of the mechanicals, that'll save some of these questions. And then I also put neighborhood information. So this is like a little binded thing. It doesn't have to be binded. I do like a little flyer from Canva, or Command has amazing flyers. The MLS is on the back. Sometimes it doesn't print on one piece of paper, which is super annoying to me. For this particular house, they had done a bunch of improvements, so I had a typed up list with the address and all the improvements that they did to the house. Then I had to put things about the neighborhood. There is a service called listreports.com that has super cool information about how convenient the neighborhood, whether it's walkable, schools in the area. I will be perfectly honest about that. If the schools aren't good, I do not leave that in the package. You can also, depending upon the city, something else that I like to do is sometimes the cities have like a community, like Mayfield has got the Wildcat Center. I'll put something about that, maybe a class schedule from the community center. A lot of them, if you Google, they have like city magazines like Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights, Beechwood. Solon had a city magazine. So I just printed out some pages of the city magazine, Solon Connection for this house, and put it in the house in my little fancy thing. It doesn't have to be this. These do cost $1, and then you can use that fun melty thing. And I just put a little sticky note, please leave in the house. And then I leave a few of these pieces around. I wouldn't leave the whole magazine because it's too expensive to print, but I do leave a few copies of things around. So that's what you're going to leave in the house. You're going to bring this information to the house the day you put the sign in the yard. And now Brian is going to take you from the signage.
Okay, a couple things I want to jump on for Allison. There is training videos in the chat. The MLS video, how to do a listing, is in there. So make sure you click on that. And I know that Showing Time also has a video that will take you through it. Because sometimes when it's been a while since I had a listing, I go back and refer that. When Allison is talking about the professional pictures, please make sure that you or the photographer is not in the mirror. That makes me crazy. And close the toilets, pet peeve. The other thing is when you're writing the description for the house, everybody kind of freaks out. And I know I did in the beginning, but there is this beautiful thing out there called Chat GPT. You just list everything you want chat to talk about, 1,500 characters, you're done. Just saying. Okay, so now you've put the sign in the
That's
yard. You're like,
cheating. You're a cheater.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out, Allison. You put the sign in the yard and you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm done. No, your work's not done. Like she said, make sure you're notified for every showing. If your sellers are the ones that are confirming the appointments or not, that's fine. But make sure you are the one notified, because this gives you a chance to reach out to the showing agent. And one of the key things about this is it now gives us an opportunity to talk to them about compensation, because it's simply in a text or a conversation. And we all agreed that we can tell them that the seller has agreed to pay a compensation at X% or X dollars of the sales price of the home. This is an excellent time to do it. You know, we've also got agents out there that before they go under contract, they're texting the people that are showing the house through showing time nice things about it. Like, thank you for showing my listing at 123 Main Street. Underneath all that green shag carpeting is gorgeous hardwood flooring. It's a great way to get a plug in there for something they may not have noticed or whatever. But reach out to the showing agent, because it's just a great time to talk to them. If you're getting bombarded with showings, this house is really popular and everyone wants to see it, that's great. When it slows down a little, you want to have that conversation with your sellers and say, hey, do we want to set a date for highest and best? Because that really can help corral the kittens. I've used that strategy several times and it really, really does work. And then you want to put it out there to everyone again through showing time. That's why I think showing time is such a good tool. You can go right in there and text every single one of them and say, hey, seller has picked next Wednesday for highest and best, and we need all offers in by 6 p.m. Email me, text me with any questions. Fine. You had another contact with them. One thing you want to remember, you are simply the advisor. You are the one guiding your sellers through this transaction. You're there to take care of anything you can for them. But the most important thing you're there for is you're the advisor. Just remember that, especially when you get the offers in, because you know what? The seller is the only one to make the ultimate decision of who buys the house. That's the seller's decision. It's not ours. I stay as far away from that as I can. But I do tell them to make a decision. When you get offers, every single offer you get, acknowledge receipt of the offer. I've had several times I've put offers in and crickets. I got nothing. So it took, 2 or 3 more texts saying, hey, Susie Q, did you get my offer? Do you want to tell me you got it like I asked you in the offer? I don't say it like that, but I'm thinking it. And there's other words in there too. When you get those offers, I can't stress this enough either. Read every single line. If you get nothing from me today, get this one. Read every single line, because I have had issues when I didn't. And the biggest takeaway from having issues is you better have learned from it. And I have. Call the lender. See what's going on with lending. Make sure they're pre-qualified or pre-approved and everything. The lender will talk to you. They love it. Call the agent with any questions you might have. And then you want to email the offer and summary over to the sellers. Now, when I get multiple offers, I like to do a spreadsheet. I call it a spreadsheet. It probably doesn't look like that to those of you that know Excel very well, but it puts everything into a column of what each offer is talking about. The most important things are the price, the financing, the move-in date, and the inspections. That's the most important part. So put them all so that your sellers can really see it. So once you accept an offer, which is a great feeling, you're still not done working. You've got to contact all the agents that sent offers. It's only the right thing to do. And I prefer to do it with a phone call. I've had some agents that text me, and that's fine. That's their thing. I prefer to call them and tell them, and I always try to find one good thing about their offer that they sent. Hey, I really like the way you did X, Y, and Z. It's just being nice, because then they're gonna come by my properties. Put the date of acceptance into, put all the dates in your calendar. Definitely put everything in, the written loan application, the inspections, any dates you have, put them in there. Put date of acceptance into dotloop, so it will self-populate. A congratulations letter to the seller. That is always a nice touch. I mean, you've worked with them a lot, but you really want to say, hey, congratulations on selling the house. Again, reach out to the lender, reach out to the title company, and change the status in the MLS and add the other agent. This is all critical. And if you have the luxury of having a transaction coordinator, this is something they do. They do a lot of reaching out, which is really, really, really cool. But we can do it ourselves. I've done it many times myself. I love to reach out to people. I love to know their thoughts, their questions, anything. I'll jump through hoops to get things accepted. So the final thing you have to do, and this one always makes me nervous, but you've got, as the listing agent, you've got to go meet the appraiser at the house. So you better dress nice. You better be nice. You can always bring the appraiser coffee. You never know. But you really want to walk in with the comps to let them know where your head was at when you did the pricing on this house. I've done this with every appraisal I've gone through, you know, as a listing agent, and they appreciate that. They're like, okay, I see where you were going with that. That makes sense. And I've had them use my comps. So I think, what questions are out there for my half of it? Okay. Allison, I'm going to send it back to you.
Anybody have any questions about what you leave in the house, where you can find any of the information that we talked about?
Where do we find the marketing information for like the schools and stuff like that? What's in the neighborhood?
I use a service, and I'm fairly certain it's free. It's called, can you see that? Can you read it? I've got this
No, it's
weird,
blurry.
I've got this weird blurry thing on my, that I don't know where it came from, so I don't know how to get rid of it because I'm an old woman. It is called listreports.com. And I'm fairly certain it's a free service because I've been using it for like 5 years and I've never paid that I know of. And I try to keep track of my finances. And they do, you know, it'll have the name and an area report, convenient to a gym, an ATM, a gas station, a pharmacy, a cleaner, the great outdoors. It'll tell you golf courses, parks, neighborhood eats. It'll tell you how many pizza places, how many bars. That always jumps out at me. Sushi, deli, and then again, it'll give you a school list, and you know, sometimes I just leave that part out.
And
When you're
When
signing
You can
into the
also Google, if you go to, and I like to do a little bit more than that because it impresses the sellers, but it's also really good information and it's easy to do. So you have a listing coming up in South Euclid. So you go Google South Euclid, go on Facebook, look at the South Euclid Facebook page. You will see that South Euclid has a couple, it has a pool, it has a splash park, it has 2 dogs, it's got a food truck park where they have bands. you just got to get on, jump on your Google machine and just find out some information and then print it and staple it all together with your MLS listing and your residential property disclosure. People will look at it. And if you come up with something that's really cool, like, sometimes they'll have a list of, everything. I love those magazines. I know, a lot of cities have them, like I said, Shaker, Cleveland Heights, Beechwood. South Euclid doesn't have something. You can also go on the Chamber of Commerce. They'll have some information. Just dig around and just find something that looks like it's interesting to you. Or if you've got a 4-bedroom home, in a city with a great school system, you're not violating any equal housing laws by just kind of making the assumption that a family's going to live there. So maybe something in the neighborhood that would appeal to a family. Yeah, just Google around until you find something. Facebook is a really good source for that. And sometimes the communities have little Facebook groups that maybe you can't get in, but you can see like the public posts. So that's always a good source just for something unique and interesting. And honestly, when you do it, it only takes a few minutes. It's not that big of a deal when you're, sitting there not able to sleep because you're worried because you got your first listing. You can Google around at night.
Hey, Al. Another thing is when you're signing on to the MLS after you put your password in, that screen that comes up where we just click CoreLogic and go right to the MLS, below that CoreLogic button is a lot of things that will look up marketing material for a city and stuff like that.
That's amazing. I forgot about that. I'm going to
I
start
know,
doing
we
that.
never look
See, you
down.
always learn something in these trainings.
Mhm.
Any
What
other
else? Any other?
questions? Okay. We can wrap up a few minutes early. Is there anything in the chat?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. And this was actually a Keller Cares initiative.
Mhm.
So everybody who is in the, everybody who participated in this is going to get their name put in a hat. And we are going to draw and give you a yard sign for your first listing, not a little open house sign, the big metal one that will have the Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan middle. I would suggest that you spend that little bit of money to get your name and phone number printed out. I think Oakley
Mhm.
Signs is where I get mine. I don't know
Mhm.
where anybody else does, but that's where I've gotten mine. With the market shift and people kind of being a little bit uncomfortable and buyers kind of confused about all of this, I think sign calls are going to be a really big thing from now until the end of the year when things kind of settle down. So I would invest in, and I don't even know how much it costs, but get your name and your phone number. If you really can't swing that right now, ask somebody to buy it for you for your birthday or an early Christmas gift. And if not, put the brokerage has a sign with at least our brokerage number so you don't get snarfed up by a different Keller Williams agent because from another brokerage, because our brokerage will not do that. If someone calls the sign in the yard, whomever is on opportunity time looks up the listing and routes the call to you, because we are awesome in this brokerage.
And guys, if there's anything else you want to know in training, let us know. We'll be happy to do others.
We live to serve.
Got it.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.